The scent of rain upon the pavement is a signature element of Seattle, that city of perpetual drizzle where the days roll into one another with a steady hush. Ethan Carter had become so accustomed to the gloom that he nearly forgot the sun was capable of warming his skin. But on this fateful day, he sat at his desk, a soft pool of lamplight illuminating lines of software code on his screen, while in his backyard a most wondrous event took place. A hiss, a shimmer, and a whisper of cosmic energies converged upon his well-kept lawn. Fate, in its curious manner, had decided that Ethan's life needed a sharper turn. Ethan, a slender man of 29, had grown used to the comfortable rhythm of his solitary existence. Neither socially inept nor particularly outgoing, he preferred a quiet life, far from the swirling currents of big city intrigue. His small house stood perched on a suburban incline, where once or twice a week a curious crow would knock on his windowsill in search of scattered crumbs. That morning, the house was silent, save for the rhythmic tapping of Ethan's keyboard, yet this calm was doomed to end. A peculiar flash glinted through the glass pane. At first, Ethan thought it an illusion cast by the reflection of his computer screen. Another glare came, blazing emerald and sapphire in hue. It danced across the fence at the far edge of his yard. Rising from his chair, Ethan approached the window with cautious steps. Another flash, a rolling glow across the grass, then a resounding thump that reverberated through his bones, rattling every single plate in his modest kitchen. He dropped his mug of coffee, watched it shatter across the hardwood floor, then rushed outside, heart pounding. There, lodged in the ground amidst scorched earth and embers, was a small spacecraft. Its tapered ends and sleek metal plating shimmered faintly, as though the heat of its interstellar travel still clung to its surface. Smoke, or perhaps some alien vapor, drifted around it in slow, dreamlike swirls. Ethereal lights, green and pulsing, glowed from a narrow seam along its side. He froze. Never had he imagined such a moment. He had read books about first contact, watched countless movies about alien invasions or benevolent cosmic visitors, but seeing such a craft in his very own backyard was something else altogether. A single panel upon the side of the craft slid open with a hiss, revealing an entrance large enough for a human to step through. He half expected some monstrous creature, with drooling maws and elongated teeth, to emerge from that gloom. His heart hammered. Yet, to his astonishment, what appeared was a figure slender and lithe, clad in a form-fitting suit of shimmering silver, with skin tinted faintly green. The creature stepped onto the charred grass, appearing almost delicate, her large black eyes wide and curious. Though her features were alien, she had a vaguely humanoid shape, a narrow waist, 2 arms, 2 legs, and a face not entirely unlike a human's. Her ears tapered slightly, and her greenish skin had the faint radiance of starlight. She surveyed the yard, and then she spoke in a calm, melodic voice. Her words, at first, were incomprehensible to Ethan, more a series of clicks and vowels. But she pressed a small device strapped to her wrist, and with a flicker of static, her speech shifted into English. I apologize for the intrusion," she said, each syllable measured, as though she struggled with this newfound language. "My craft malfunctioned upon atmospheric entry. I do not wish harm. Are you the dweller of this place?" Ethan, lips parted in shock, could manage only a nod. His mouth felt dry, his mind reeled with 1,000 unasked questions. The alien's gaze darted across his messy lawn, and at last, she bowed her head with something akin to humility. "My name is Lyra," she said, tapping at the device on her wrist, which flickered with pastel lights. "I come from a world you have not discovered. I am here on a research mission. Our science seeks knowledge of many forms of life, particularly that of humankind." A surge of adrenaline warred with wonder in Ethan's chest. "I'm Ethan," he managed, stumbling over his own name. "Ethan Carter. Are you injured? What can I do? How can I help?" Lyra studied him, scanning him from head to toe with an instrument shaped like an oblong wand. She seemed to find him acceptable, or at least she withheld any sign of fear or aggression. With a gentle wave, she gestured back to the damaged craft. "I require materials to repair my vessel. They may not be readily available, but I am sure we can improvise. Your Earth, humans, fascinate me. I have so many questions. Do you live here alone?" Yes, Ethan replied, stepping forward with a trembling sense of excitement. I can. I can get supplies or call someone. But I don't know if we have what you need. Maybe a specialized metal workshop or some NASA facility. Is there a place inside, warmer, more protected from public sight? Asked Lyra, her eyes roving across the fences and surrounding rooftops. I sense your neighbors may notice soon. It is best to remain discreet, yes? Ethan glanced around. The early morning hush would soon give way to dog walkers and mail carriers. The last thing he wanted was a frenzy of law enforcement or panicked crowds. Sucking in a breath, he motioned to his back door. Yes, you can come in. Just watch your step. I just broke a coffee mug. Lyra nodded, following him into the house with measured steps. And so began a most unexpected saga, one that would carry them both through awkward attempts at cultural exchange, comedic misadventures, and ultimately a bond that crossed the boundaries of worlds. By the time Lyra stepped into Ethan's living room, the sky had cracked open with a light drizzle, the typical greeting Seattle offered to visitors, whether human or extraterrestrial. She gently brushed droplets from her suit, then let her gaze wander around the cramped space. It was a modest home, with a single couch pressed against one wall, a coffee table strewn with half-read tech magazines and stray cables, and a small TV set. One corner contained a potted fern struggling to survive in the shadows. Lyra moved with an otherworldly grace, as though gravity touched her differently than it did earthly inhabitants. She peered closely at every detail: the weavings in the couch's fabric, the shine of the overhead light bulb, the faint flicker of Ethan's computer screen in the adjoining room. There was no sign of fear. Instead, her face displayed calm curiosity. I perceive you are alone here, she stated, settling her gaze on him with an intent that made Ethan's cheeks warm. No partner, no brood, no communal relations. Is that the norm for your species at your age, or is it a personal choice? Ethan offered a nervous chuckle. It's not that uncommon. Lots of people my age share apartments, or have roommates, or they might live with a partner. I prefer solitude, for now. But let's not talk about my personal life yet. Are you sure you're all right? You didn't get hurt in the crash? Lyra gave a light shake of her head, then tapped her neck where a faint metallic band glimmered. My suit monitors vital functions, and it reports no major issues. But I appreciate your concern. My first data logs on this planet told me that humans are occasionally territorial. I was not certain you would be so welcoming. Ethan almost laughed at the idea of being mistaken for a territorial threat. He was about as intimidating as a house cat, and hardly one that would show its claws. Well, I figure, if someone crashes in my yard, the least I can do is offer them a place to rest. I can't promise advanced technology, but I can show you around. At least, well, is that what you were planning to do here anyway? My assignment is to study humans in their native environment. Yes, Lyra explained. I am an observer, a researcher. I was to land in a secluded location and mingle with your populace discreetly, with the aid of certain cloaking devices. But the engine malfunctioned, and I have found you first, Ethan Carter. The usage of his full name made him feel oddly singled out, but he decided to take it as a compliment. All right, let's see what we can do to help you out. Meanwhile, we'll have to figure out how to hide your ship. My yard isn't exactly big enough to conceal it if neighbors decide to look over the fence. Lyra nodded gravely. Indeed, that must be our priority. Thus was the arrangement struck. First contact did not arrive with triumphant orchestras or flocks of news crews, but in the form of a mild-mannered software developer sweeping shards of coffee mug off his kitchen floor while an alien with emerald skin calmly inspected earthly appliances. The day wore on, every hour presenting small wonders for Lyra. The electric kettle's whistle, the novelty of a smartphone's touchscreen, the hum of a ceiling fan, all of which she marveled at with unwavering attention. She asked endless questions in that soft, inquisitive voice, questions about social structures, politics, personal relationships, even media consumption. Ethan, overwhelmed, did his best to answer, though he often found himself unsure how to clarify the complexities of daily life that he had long taken for granted. When the night fell, they managed to fashion a makeshift tarp over the ship, supported by wooden planks and spare sheets from Ethan's garage. The craft's glowing underside, fortunately, seemed to dim as the internal systems powered down. By the time they finished, both were soaked from the rain, and Ethan's teeth chattered from the cold. Lyra looked no worse for wear. Her suit apparently regulated temperature. She insisted she was not inconvenienced, but Ethan felt compelled to offer her something. Clothes, perhaps? That was the moment he realized that, once inside the house, Lyra had swiftly removed the top half of her suit, leaving only a thin layer that clung to her torso like a second skin. Although she retained a distinctly alien appearance, there was something undeniably human-like about her slender figure. Flustered, Ethan rummaged through his closet and found an old sweatshirt, passing it to her with trembling hands. She studied it carefully, as if it were some sacred artifact, before pulling it over her head. "How does this garment function? Why is it so soft?" she asked, pinching the cotton fabric between her fingers. "It has a comforting texture." "Cotton? It's, well, a plant fiber," Ethan stammered, trying not to stare. "People wear these to keep warm. And modest. Or privacy, you know." "Modesty," she repeated, as though testing the word's meaning. "Your species hides certain parts of the body to preserve privacy. Intriguing. My species has similar customs, though they vary by region." "Thank you, Ethan. This is comfortable indeed." A flurry of conflicting emotions swirled in him. Excitement at the cosmic wonder of meeting an alien, nervousness at hosting an unplanned visitor, and a mild flicker of attraction that crept unbidden into his heart. He tried to ignore it, reminding himself that he was dealing with an extraterrestrial scholar, not some stray tourist. She was here on a mission, presumably with a far grander purpose than satisfying the curiosity of a seatlight software developer. Yet little did he suspect, the days that followed would be filled with comedic misunderstandings and the slow knitting together of their two hearts, all set against the backdrop of a city that had never before housed a visitor from the stars. The next morning dawned gray and overcast, as if the sky wished to withhold any sunlight from shining on the improbable circumstances that had gathered under Ethan's roof. He found himself on the couch, half covered by a blanket, awakened by soft humming from the kitchen. The digital clock read 6:14 a.m., far earlier than he usually rose. He sat up, blinking away sleep, and saw Lyra delicately pressing the buttons on his coffee machine. She seemed enthralled by the way each click elicited a beep or a tiny light, and her greenish lips were curved in an expression of delight. "Good morning," Ethan mumbled, rubbing his eyes. "Did you figure out how to work that?" Lyra pivoted to face him. "Your device is quite intuitive once observed. I have studied the package labeled coffee grounds and hypothesized that hot water combined with these grounds yields a beverage you consume to awaken your senses. Is that correct?" A small smile tugged at his lips. "Yeah, coffee is pretty important to me. I need it in the mornings. But hey, you don't have to do that. I mean, you're my guest. I'm supposed to be the host here." She waved a dismissive hand, as though the concept of a guest's obligations meant little. "I have read about your earthly courtesy, but I feel compelled to help. My presence here, in your home, imposes upon your resources and comfort. It is only fair that I learn to replicate your daily routines. The coffee is almost ready, by the way." Such a curious notion, Ethan thought. Here was an alien, literally from another world, standing in his kitchen and preparing coffee for him. If he had told his co-workers about this scenario, they would have labeled him insane. Yet the rich aroma of fresh coffee drifting through the air was most certainly real, and the memory of the tiny spaceship in his yard shattered any doubt. He rose and joined her, guiding the process as best he could. Once the brew was ready, he poured 2 steaming mugs. "I don't know if your system can handle caffeine, so maybe just smell it first." Lyra sniffed the dark liquid, then pursed her lips thoughtfully. "It has a stimulating chemical composition, but I should be fine with a small quantity." She took a tentative sip, brows lifting in surprise. "Ah, it is quite bitter, but I sense a pleasant warmth." "Fascinating. My species uses a similar beverage derived from algae on our home planet. It is also bitter, but your coffee has a more robust flavor." Ethan managed a smile. "We're big on coffee here in Seattle. So, any plans for how to fix your ship yet?" Lyra set the mug down, adjusting the borrowed sweatshirt. "Yes, I have surveyed your home and discovered that many of the raw materials I need are absent, but I do see you have a vehicle. Perhaps we can travel to specialized stores. I must warn you, I do not carry your Earth currency. so you will have to aid me in procuring what is needed. I intend to reimburse you with knowledge that may be of value. Knowledge? Ethan asked. What kind of knowledge? A small grin graced her lips, a gesture that was both foreign and endearing. Technological schematics, advanced processes. Your world is on the cusp of certain breakthroughs that my people have already achieved. If you help me, I can show you ways to refine energy usage or even harness certain quantum phenomena. But let us not delve into that yet, for I must be discreet. First, we must see if we can blend in. Ethan tilted his head curiously. Blend in, you mean? Hide your alien features? She nodded. Precisely. My green skin and unusual eyes may draw unwelcome attention. My cloak device is damaged. I have minimal energy left in the suit's concealment matrix. It will suffice only if we remain indoors or among small crowds. I cannot pass fully as a human, but from a distance, under certain conditions, I may not arouse suspicion. However, I must be mindful. An image flashed in Ethan's mind, walking down the aisles of a hardware store with a clearly non-human companion. The mere thought was ludicrous. Maybe we should start with something simpler, like ordering parts online. You're in the house, you can watch me do it. Then we wait for delivery. That's a big part of modern life. Online shopping, and we have drones that deliver, sometimes. Lyra's eyes sparkled. Yes, that could prove advantageous. But I do wish to see more of this world, experience your environment firsthand. My mission is not simply about acquiring parts, but learning of human ways. Ethan fidgeted with his mug. Right, of course. I guess. Well, we have to be careful. People might freak out if they see you. Maybe we could pass you off as someone wearing elaborate makeup. Seattle can be weird. Nobody would question it too much, maybe. That is a promising strategy, Lyra mused. Then perhaps you can accompany me outside. Show me these coffee shops, and let me witness how humans interact in daily affairs. But we must take it step by step. I do not wish to place undue stress on you. He stared at her in silence for a moment, marveling at the fortune and burden of this cosmic twist. Here he was, an unremarkable software developer, playing host to an alien scholar who seemed eager to dissect every corner of human existence. The magnitude of it nearly took his breath away. Yet a small part of him, an adventurous spark he hardly knew he possessed, found the prospect thrilling. All right, he said at last, let's do it. I mean, I'll help with your repairs and show you around. We just have to keep a low profile. Her grin deepened. I am relieved. This partnership, as you might call it, shall prove most enlightening. And so the day was set in motion with a quiet vow. They would navigate the labyrinth of earthly norms together. Ethan providing the knowledge of local culture, and Lyra contributing her extraterrestrial insights, her earnest fascination, and that gentle sense of humor that would blossom more fully in the days to come. Their initial forays into normal life began cautiously, with Lyra studying Earth culture through a digital lens, Ethan's laptop. She watched documentaries, comedic sitcoms, and snippets of popular reality shows, each revealing different facets of human behavior. Ethan soon found that her sense of curiosity was insatiable. She paused every few minutes to ask about idiomatic expressions, social norms, or even the significance of an audience's laughter track. Why are they laughing? She would ask, wide-eyed, pointing at the screen. Is it because the character spoke in an absurd manner, or because he is mocking established social rules? Ethan did his best to explain, though more than once he had to shrug and admit. Sometimes people just find something funny for reasons that are hard to articulate. Eventually, Lyra formed a rudimentary map of human society in her mind. She learned about familial bonds, friendships, the complexities of relationships, and yes, the concept of mating rituals. That topic, she discovered, seemed to lie at the heart of countless television shows and movies. Whether comedic or dramatic, there was an unrelenting focus on romance, flirtation, jealousy, heartbreak, and intimacy. These mating rituals, she said one afternoon, after binge-watching a romantic comedy marathon. They appear quite elaborate, yet also contradictory. Humans are prone to elaborate courtship gestures, public displays of affection, or, at times, they hide their desires behind layers of politeness. There's a notion of dating, which precedes physical intimacy. But then there's also the concept of casual encounters. Is that correct? Ethan, trying to keep a straight face, nodded. Yeah, It can be complicated. People approach relationships differently. Some are very traditional, some more modern. Sometimes it's fun and casual, sometimes it's serious. We have a wide range of customs. Lyra's expression revealed genuine fascination. On my planet, we also have variations in partnership customs. But the notion of date nights, candlelit dinners, and dancing as preludes to deeper connections is most peculiar. We put more emphasis on mind resonance, the alignment of energies, rather than outward gestures. It seems that humans put great weight on physical allure and symbolic acts. I find it endearing, if somewhat theatrical. Her choice of the word, endearing, made Ethan chuckle. We like to complicate things. Maybe that's what keeps life interesting. Anyway, hopefully you won't have to worry about that side of things. She cocked her head, eyes drifting over him. Oh, but as a researcher, I must endeavor to observe all aspects of human existence, including mating rituals. My records wouldn't be complete otherwise. A surge of heat rose to Ethan's face. Well, hopefully you can glean enough from movies. And, maybe from observing couples in public. You don't need me for that. She offered a small shrug. I suppose not. Yet the second-hand experience might not capture the true essence of it all. Perhaps I should find a participant to demonstrate. Would that not be the best approach? Ethan nearly dropped the pencil he was holding. The suggestion startled him, sending his heart galloping. That's one way. But you might find it's complicated to ask a random person to demonstrate such rituals. Humans can be squeamish or shy about those topics. Another thoughtful nod. Indeed. In that case, I will wait and see if an opportunity arises naturally. I am not here to force experiences upon unsuspecting individuals. Her diplomatic manner impressed Ethan. She truly did approach life as a scholar, systematically cataloging every phenomenon with respectful curiosity. Yet he couldn't suppress the notion that her calm discourse on mating rituals might lead to some comedic trouble if she tried too hard to replicate a movie scenario in public. Late in the week, Ethan mustered the courage to bring Lyra on a shopping excursion. Though he had ordered some parts online, a few specific items still required in-person selection. They arrived at the hardware store in the early evening, when foot traffic was sparse. Lyra wore a large hooded jacket, her face partially hidden, and though her green skin was visible at close range, Ethan hoped the dim lights and hurried customers would keep them from attracting attention. Nonetheless, a few onlookers cast curious glances their way, perhaps wondering if she was wearing elaborate makeup. Lyra moved with wide-eyed wonder, scanning the aisles of tools, wires, and mechanical components. She paused often, picking up items and studying their labels intently. Ethan guided her to the automotive section, where specialized metals and adhesives might serve her repair needs. This is a bonding resin, he explained, gesturing to a tube of industrial-strength glue. It can handle pretty high temperatures. And over here is a variety of wire gauges. You said you need something akin to copper, right? Yes, copper or silver would do, she replied, skimming the options with a laser-like focus. I must fuse a panel inside the ship's engine compartment. The meltdown corrupted the interface. We do not have an exact parallel among your Earth materials, but I believe we can adapt. A store employee, a stocky man with a friendly face, approached them. Evening, folks. Need any help finding something? Ethan froze for a moment, glancing at Lyra to ensure she kept her face mostly hidden. Just looking at adhesives and wiring, thanks. We're good. The man nodded, eyes lingering on Lyra. Cool, interesting jacket. Looks real futuristic. You folks, working on a project? Yes, Lyra answered, voice smooth but slightly too formal. It is a machine restoration. Something quite old and dear to me. The man blinked, evidently unsure how to respond. Well, all right. Let me know if I can help. With that, he ambled away, still casting curious glances behind him. Ethan exhaled in relief as they resumed browsing. They gathered the necessary materials in a small cart, though Lyra's attention often wandered to other aisles. She exclaimed softly at the variety of power drills and was especially intrigued by a display of solar panels. Your civilization is beginning to harness your star's energy, she whispered approvingly. It is good progress, though you might do more to reduce reliance on carbon-based fuels. My people once faced a similar crisis and overcame it with. Before she could continue, A tall woman shopping nearby brushed past them. A child, presumably her daughter, tugged on the woman's sleeve and pointed at Lyra. "Mom, look at that lady's skin," the child exclaimed, voice bright. "It's green." The woman scolded the child in a hushed tone. "Shoo, she's probably wearing body paint or something. Don't stare." The woman then offered Ethan a half-apologetic look before guiding her curious daughter away. Ethan felt his pulse quicken, glancing at Lyra to see if she seemed upset. Instead, she maintained her calm composure, though the corners of her lips rose in amusement. "Children are far less inhibited," she whispered. "They observe and speak freely. It is refreshing." They finished collecting the items they needed, then hurried to the register, where Ethan paid. The cashier raised an eyebrow at Lyra's jacket and her subtle green complexion, but said nothing beyond a polite smile. Once back in the parking lot, Ethan stowed the bags in the trunk and let out a long, tension-filled breath. "That went better than I expected," he said. "You did well keeping your hood up." Lyra quietly agreed. "I have observed that many humans do not question bizarre appearances, provided it does not threaten them directly. Fashion is quite diverse. Perhaps I can blend in by claiming to be a performer or an enthusiast of special effects." Ethan chuckled, starting the car. "Yeah, people in this city might just assume you're a cosplayer. Especially if you walk around a sci-fi convention, you'd fit right in." Lyra tilted her head. "Cosplayer, meaning they dress as fictional characters? Intriguing. Then my appearance might be interpreted as an especially convincing costume." "Exactly," Ethan said, merging onto the road. "Though I'd still be cautious." She nodded, leaning back in her seat. "Agreed. Caution is wise. But I appreciate you guiding me through this. It allows me to see the workings of your society up close. That is invaluable for my research." A faint glow of pleasure coursed through Ethan. He reminded himself that her presence was a fleeting phenomenon. Once her ship was repaired, she would depart, leaving him with a memory that might feel more dream than reality. Yet for the time being, they were allies, even friends. He found himself enjoying her company, each new experience lending dimension to their improbable connection. After returning home, they lugged the bags of supplies into the house, setting them down on the living room floor. Lyra meticulously began sorting through wires and tubes of adhesive, making notes on a small device that projected holographic readouts in a faint lilac glow. Ethan observed her with fascination, enthralled by the mixture of advanced alien technology and the prosaic tubes of earthly superglue. Somewhere around 11 at night, after they'd eaten a simple dinner of reheated pizza, Ethan found himself yawning. Lyra, however, showed no sign of fatigue, her large eyes shining with an alert energy. She paused her inspection of the materials, gazing at him with gentle concern. "You seem tired, Ethan," she said. "Shall I retire to the craft for the night?" He frowned. "Your craft is freezing cold out there, and it's raining. That tarp isn't exactly an impenetrable shield against the weather. My couch is available, the bed is big enough if you wanted it, though that might be weird." He realized he was babbling. She tilted her head, regarding him with a soft curiosity. "On my planet, co-sleeping is not uncommon. Even among individuals who do not share a partnership, resting in close quarters can signify trust. But I sense that among humans, this can be interpreted as more intimate. I do not wish to cause you discomfort." Ethan's cheeks warmed. "It can be, but it doesn't have to be. I just don't want you to freeze in the ship. Seriously, the couch is fine if you're comfortable. Or I have an air mattress somewhere." Lyra stood, stepping lightly across the living room. "The couch will do. I appreciate your hospitality. You have shown me kindness that surpasses mere obligation." A quiet hush settled between them. Ethan sensed an unspoken warmth, a subtle shift in the atmosphere that made his heartbeat thrash against his ribs. He cleared his throat, breaking the silence. It's strange, but having you here has been kind of nice. My life was pretty dull before this. I went to work, I came home, repeat. Now, everything feels new again." She offered a small, understanding smile. "Thank you, Ethan. I, too, feel a sense of gratitude. My research was intended to be purely academic, yet I find myself quite fond of your company." He tried not to read too much into her words. Perhaps she was only speaking of friendly appreciation. After all, the concept of romance with an alien seemed outlandish. But the look in her eyes, the gentle curve of her green-hued lips, stirred a quiet longing in him that he could not entirely push aside. "Get some rest," she told him softly. "Tomorrow, we have more repairs to attempt, yes?" He nodded, forcing his racing thoughts to still. "Right. Good night, Lyra." "Good night, Ethan," she said, settling on the couch with a blanket he handed her. The overhead lamp cast golden light across her face, illuminating the faint ridges along her cheeks, the subtle tilt of her ears. Then he flicked the switch, and the room dropped into darkness, leaving only the quiet pulse of their shared breathing. Rumors often start small. Perhaps the next-door neighbor saw the flash of light that accompanied Lyra's crash landing, or maybe a teenage passerby glimpsed the strange tarp in Ethan's backyard. Either way, by the following day, a curious hush had descended on the cul-de-sac. Ethan received a text from his neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, an elderly widow who liked to keep track of neighborhood goings-on. "Is everything all right at your house, dear? Saw some smoke the other morning. Hope you're safe." Ethan replied with a quick reassurance about a kitchen mishap, hoping to quell any further interest. Yet as he collected the mail, he spotted two local teenagers peering over his fence, eyes wide with curiosity. When they noticed him, they jumped, muttered something under their breath, and hurried away. His heart thudded at the possibility that they'd seen Lyra. If word spread, who knew what might follow? Government agents, sensational news stories, throngs of gawkers? Returning indoors, he found Lyra engrossed in an internet article describing human biology. She glanced up as he locked the door behind him, tension radiating off him like heat. "Is something amiss?" she asked calmly. "Maybe," he murmured. "I have nosy neighbors, and I saw some kids snooping around. They might have noticed the ship. We should be extra careful." Lyra frowned thoughtfully. "I can attempt to cloak the ship's exterior again, but the energy reserves are too low to sustain it for long. Repairs to the ship's power matrix must come first." "All right, we'll pick up the pace," Ethan said. "Let's see if the materials we got are enough to fix the internal damage, or at least hide the ship better." They ventured into the backyard, ducking under the tarp. The craft's metallic surface reflected ghostly shapes in the dim light, and the interior smelled faintly of ozone and burnt circuitry. Lyra knelt beside the central console, opening a panel of shimmering wires. With Ethan's help, she began painstakingly soldering new connections, applying adhesives, and recalibrating alien circuit boards, guided by her advanced holographic readouts. They worked in near silence for hours, until the afternoon clouds parted just enough to reveal a slice of gray-blue sky. Eventually, Lyra sighed, sitting back on her heels. "We've made progress, but the main energy coupling is fused beyond easy repair. I may have to craft a replacement from scratch, using more of your Earth components." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, sweat beading at his temple. "That sounds complicated." She nodded. "It will be. But do not fret. I've encountered worse scenarios in my travels." He realized this was the first time she had referenced prior journeys. "You've traveled other planets?" She cast him a patient smile. "Yes, though not alone. My people dispatch us in small teams, each to gather data. My partner was assigned to a region half a world away, hidden in your deserts, I believe. But we parted ways during atmospheric entry. Now, that partner is likely sending out signals, uncertain of my status. I must repair the communications array here, so I can let them know I am safe." Ethan felt a stab of selfishness. Part of him wanted to keep her presence a secret. She was the most remarkable thing that had ever happened to him. Yet obviously she had obligations that extended beyond his personal wishes. "Yeah, of course. We should fix that array soon, then." She reached out and touched his hand lightly. "Thank you, Ethan, for everything. I promise, your kindness will not go unremembered." His heart squeezed. "Ah, yeah? You're welcome." They lingered there for a moment, hands together, until a distant bark from a neighbor's dog startled them. They separated quickly, Ethan feeling a rush of warmth flood his cheeks. Lyra ducked out from under the tarp, scanning the yard for any watchers. Satisfied, she beckoned Ethan. "Let us continue this inside. I wish to discuss an idea about forging a substitute for the coupling." They made their way back indoors, leaving the tarp's flaps gently swaying in the afternoon breeze. That evening, as a break from the relentless work, Ethan decided to introduce Lyra to the concept of karaoke. This casual, often embarrassing human pastime had always been something Ethan avoided in social gatherings. But for Lyra's educational benefit, and to lighten their spirits, he decided a small demonstration at home might be enjoyable. He hooked up a microphone to his TV, downloaded a karaoke app, and selected a pop song with a catchy melody. Lyra watched with polite amusement as Ethan cleared his throat. He began singing in a wavering tenor, missing half the notes. The lyrics scrolled across the screen in large white letters. He felt his face turning red, but forced himself to keep going for Lyra's sake. When the final notes faded, Lyra clapped, her eyes gleaming. "Marvelous, Ethan. Is this a typical social bonding ritual, or is it performed for personal enjoyment?" Ethan laughed, putting the microphone down. "Both, I guess. People go out to bars or clubs, gather with friends, and sing popular songs. Some do it well, others not so much. It's about having fun, usually after a few drinks to reduce inhibitions." "I see," she said, stepping forward. "May I try?" A ripple of anticipation fluttered through him. "Sure. Pick a song you like." She scrolled through the options, landing on a classic rock ballad. As the opening chords began, she studied the lyrics intently. Then she sang, voice low at first, then rising with confidence. Although her accent was unusual and her pronunciation at times shaky, she delivered the melody in a haunting, melodic tone that sent shivers through Ethan's spine. It was as though she instinctively grasped the emotional resonance of the song, weaving it into a new tapestry that transcended mere mimicry. When she finished, Ethan found himself clapping loudly, genuine excitement lighting up his face. "Lyra, that was amazing. Your voice, it's really beautiful." She blinked in pleasant surprise. "I am untrained in your musical forms, but singing on my planet is not uncommon. We use tonal harmonics as a form of expression. Perhaps there is common ground in our musical sensibilities." Ethan nodded eagerly. Music can bridge gaps between cultures. I guess that goes for alien cultures too. They spent the next half hour sampling various songs, occasionally erupting into laughter when Lyra stumbled over especially fast lyrics. The unguarded humor, the sense of camaraderie, thrilled Ethan in a way he hadn't felt in ages. Yes, they were from different worlds, but at that moment, he felt closer to her than to many people he had known for years. Toward the end of the week, Lyra insisted she needed more first-hand observation of everyday human interaction. She was particularly curious about the dating scene, having watched numerous romantic comedies that portrayed couples meeting in quaint cafes or strolling through city parks. "I must see how humans behave during these intimate courtship phases," she said. "Their expressions, body language, and social cues. Observing from a distance might suffice, but perhaps we can simulate a scenario?" Ethan nearly choked on his drink. "You mean you want us to go on a date?" Her large, dark eyes blinked. "If it would not displease you. Merely for research purposes, of course. I could gain much insight." His heart fluttered like a hummingbird. "Sure, yeah, we can do that. But it's just pretend, right? To observe." "Precisely," she said, nodding with a small smile that made him question his own heartbeat's pace. "I do not wish to mislead. I am aware that humans have emotional attachments to such gestures. If this feels uncomfortable, we can abandon the idea." Ethan took a moment to inhale, steadying himself. "No, let's do it. We'll pick a spot, maybe a small restaurant or cafe, and we'll act like we're on a date." Inside, he was torn between excitement and nervousness. The notion of pretending to date an alien was bizarre, but the mere thought of spending more time with Lyra in a romantic context, even if feigned, thrilled him beyond reason. They selected a quiet bistro not too far from Ethan's home, known for dim lighting and live acoustic music on Friday nights. Lyra managed to find a large-brimmed hat and a long coat that concealed most of her features. A touch of makeup, foundation tinted to offset some of the green hue, helped her blend in from a slight distance. Up close, one could still tell something was different, but in Seattle's eclectic environment, it might not raise too many eyebrows. When they entered, the gentle strum of a guitar drifted through the warm air. Small tables with flickering candles dotted the interior, casting moving shadows across brick walls. Lyra gazed around, eyes alight with wonder, taking in every detail. A hostess led them to a table near the back, where they settled across from one another. Lyra fidgeted with the menu, eyes scanning the text with intense focus. "So many options," she whispered. "Human cuisine is staggering in its variety." Ethan watched her. "Try anything that catches your eye." Maybe the pasta? Or a salad with interesting toppings. And there's dessert, too. She nodded slowly, then tried to emulate the casual posture of other diners, leaning forward slightly. Her eyes flicked around the room, taking in the couples chatting intimately, the servers weaving between tables. Across the bistro, a pair of young lovers giggled, holding hands. Lyra absorbed every detail, from the way they leaned toward one another to the subtle interplay of eye contact. When the waiter arrived, Lyra ordered with formal politeness, her strange accent drawing a curious glance. Ethan quickly added his own order, hoping to distract the waiter. Luckily, the man simply assumed they were foreign tourists. As they waited for their food, Lyra turned her focus to Ethan. So, in a typical date scenario, people exchange personal stories, yes? They attempt to find common interests, to ascertain compatibility? Ethan managed to chuckle. Yes, that's how it usually goes. They might talk about their jobs, hobbies, funny childhood memories. They might flirt, compliment each other, maybe gently tease. It's a way to build a connection. She tapped a finger against her chin. Very well. We shall do so. Ethan, pray tell, what was your childhood like? Did you have a large family? Did you always wish to be a software developer? He grinned, leaning in. Well, I grew up a few states away, in a small town. I was an only child, though I had cousins I spent time with. My mom was a teacher, my dad a mechanic. I kind of stumbled into coding in high school. Found out I liked tinkering with computers. Lyra nodded intently. And have you ever engaged in a serious romantic partnership? Her question was as casual as if she were asking about the weather, yet it sent a spark of self-consciousness through Ethan. I had a college girlfriend. That lasted a couple of years. But we drifted apart after graduation. No one serious since then. I guess I got busy with work, and maybe I'm not so great at that side of life. A gentle, empathetic smile touched her lips. Relationships can be challenging. My own species experiences emotional bonds differently, but we too have heartbreaks. I am sorry if yours was painful. He swallowed. It's okay. It was a long time ago. I'm fine now. They shared a lingering look, each seemingly lost in the other's eyes, until the waiter returned with plates of steaming food. Lyra observed closely how Ethan twirled noodles around a fork, then mimicked his actions. She chewed thoughtfully, analyzing the flavors. Rich, savory, quite pleasant. Her gaze then drifted across the bistro, zeroing in on a couple who kissed lightly over their plates. Lyra turned back to Ethan, a spark of curiosity igniting in her expression. On a date, it is not uncommon for couples to share physical affection. A kiss, perhaps. Ethan nearly choked on his pasta. Yeah, that can happen. When the moment is right, or if both people are comfortable with it. She considered this, then nodded as if making a mental note. I see. For research purposes, I may request a demonstration at some point, but do not feel obliged. He wasn't sure if the wave of heat across his face was embarrassment, excitement, or both. Desperate to change the subject, he cleared his throat. The band playing tonight is nice, right? That guitarist is pretty talented. Lyra smiled, recognizing his dodge, but allowing it. Yes, I appreciate the ambience. The rest of the meal passed in a blur of small talk and shared observations. Yet there was an undeniable undercurrent of tension, an electric hum in the air between them, as though each recognized that this was not merely academic. By the time they stepped outside, the Seattle night greeted them with a soft drizzle. They huddled beneath the overhang, waiting for a moment to scurry to Ethan's car. Well, that was educational, Lyra mused, turning to him. Thank you for indulging my curiosity. He couldn't help but notice how beautiful she looked beneath the street lamp, rain droplets glistening on her hat's brim. Anytime, he whispered, heart thudding. A fleeting thought crossed his mind. Was this truly just for research, or was there something more unfolding between them? Before he could dwell too long on the question, she gently slipped her hand into his, squeezing it with a tender familiarity. Then they ran through the raindrops to the car, laughter echoing into the night. Days rolled by, and with them came incremental progress on repairing Lyra's ship. Though some parts were still on order, they'd managed to restore partial functionality to the power system. The communications array, however, remained offline, a broken link to the cosmos that prevented Lyra from contacting her people. In the meantime, her presence in Ethan's home had become an odd normality. She slept on the couch or, occasionally, napped in the ship's interior if she needed to run diagnostics. She cooked, cleaning up afterward with meticulous care, and joined Ethan in silly earthly hobbies like streaming cartoons or playing board games. They joked, teased each other, and sometimes lapsed into deeper, more contemplative silences. The more time Ethan spent with Lyra, the more he found himself entranced by her quiet intelligence, her gentle humor, her unwavering curiosity about human nature. Their pretend date had sparked something inside him, something that refused to remain buried beneath labels like research. He was drawn to her, undeniably so, and yet he struggled with the knowledge that her time on Earth was finite. One crisp morning, while they shared a cup of coffee in the living room, Lyra turned the conversation toward heavier topics. "Ethan," she began softly, "I have learned so much about humans in the past weeks. Their kindness, creativity, and resilience, but also their capacity for conflict, ignorance, and self-destruction." He studied her face, brow-knitted. "Yeah, we're complicated. I wish I could say we're all good, but you've seen the news. War, pollution, inequality. We have a lot to fix." She gazed at him with sympathy. "I do not judge your species. My own kind also had dark chapters. We overcame them slowly, through unity and scientific advancement. But we remain vigilant. Perhaps we can share some of that knowledge with you, if your world is willing." Ethan's heart lifted. "That would be amazing. But I worry about the powers that be. Governments, corporations, who knows how they'd react to you? Or if they'd use your tech responsibly." Lyra nodded, her expression somber. "Indeed, that is my concern as well. I must tread carefully. Our directive forbids us from interfering too drastically with a planet's developmental course. We offer hints, small nudges, only if the society is ready." A pause settled between them. Ethan's mind flicked to a question he had wrestled with for days. "Lyra, once your ship is fixed, what happens next? You'll rejoin your partner, leave Earth, and that's it." She lowered her gaze, fingers toying with a loose thread on the couch cushion. "It is likely so. My mission here has a time limit. We are expected to depart once sufficient data is gathered. If I remain too long, my people will come searching, risking exposure and conflict." His stomach churned. "I see." She raised her eyes to him, and he thought he detected a flicker of sadness. "I had not anticipated forming a strong bond with a local individual. It is not standard procedure. Yet you, Ethan Carter, have shown me such warmth and openness that I find myself reluctant to leave you." A sharp ache bloomed in his chest. "Reluctant? Do you mean you'd consider staying longer?" She hesitated, breath catching. "My heart tells me yes, but my duty pulls me elsewhere. I do not wish to abandon all I have built back home, nor can I simply whisk you away. There are protocols, interplanetary laws regarding abduction or unauthorized immigration to another world." A wry grin tugged at Ethan's lips, though tears threatened behind his eyes. "Don't worry, I'm not asking you to abduct me. It's just this is hard is all." Lyra scooted closer, placing a gentle hand over his. "We have what time remains until my ship is operational. Let us not waste it by dwelling on the inevitable. Instead, let us cherish each moment we share." His chest felt simultaneously heavy and elated. He threaded his fingers through hers, marveling at how natural it felt, as though they were two halves that fit in an unexpected puzzle. "Okay," he whispered. "We'll cherish it." She leaned in, her forehead nearly touching his, and for a single suspended breath, the possibility of a kiss flickered. But the moment broke when a crash sounded outside, a trash can toppled by the wind, perhaps. They jumped apart, hearts pounding. Lyra exhaled a shaky breath. "Let us see to the repairs, yes?" Ethan nodded, forcing himself to focus. But as they moved into the backyard to tinker with alien components, the taste of what might have happened lingered in the air, sweet as honey and twice as tempting. The next day brought an unannounced visitor, a local reporter named Maggie Branson, who worked for a small community publication. She knocked on Ethan's door with a brisk rap, wearing a cordial smile and holding a notepad. Peeking out the window, Ethan's heart lurched. This could be trouble. He stepped onto the porch, pulling the door partly closed behind him. Can I help you?" he asked, trying not to let his anxiety show. She offered a friendly wave. "Hi there. I'm Maggie with the Seattle Neighborhood Chronicle. We've had some interesting reports from neighbors about strange lights and noises here last week. Mind if I ask you a few questions?" Probably just a quick chat for our local column. Ethan forced a laugh. Oh, that. Just some weird electrical issues. Plus, I accidentally lit a bunch of old cardboard on fire while trying to barbecue. Nothing exciting. Sorry if it bothered anyone. She jotted something down, arching an eyebrow. Some folks said they saw a glowing object in your backyard. They thought it might have been a drone or something even more unusual. Anything like that going on. He maintained a casual stance, though his pulse hammered in his ears. I do own a small drone, yeah? I was messing with it that night, and it crashed. Must have been the glow from its lights. Uh-huh, she said, pen tapping. And your new roommate? A neighbor mentioned a person with distinctive features. He gulped. Oh, that's my cousin visiting from out of town. Big fan of cosplay. She's just passing through. Maggie studied him for a tense moment, then gave a polite smile. I see. Well, thanks for your time. If you have any photos of your drone or your cousin's costumes, we'd love to run a lighthearted piece on it. That's, not necessary. But I'll let you know if that changes. Thanks again, he said, eager to usher her off his porch. With that, she left, though he sensed a hint of skepticism in her parting glance. Once she disappeared down the street, Ethan let out a shaky breath. Heading back inside, he found Lyra pressed against the wall, listening. Her eyes shone with worry. She suspects something, Lyra murmured. We must be prepared. Yeah, Ethan agreed, heart racing. Let's hope she doesn't dig too deep. They hunkered down for the rest of the day, double-checking the tarp and the yard for clues that might betray Lyra's presence. Ethan realized with a jolt that time was running short. Some event would force Lyra to leave soon, or risk exposure that could endanger them both. On a crisp evening, with the moon hanging like a silver coin in the sky, Ethan found Lyra perched on the back porch, staring at the stars. He joined her in silence, the hush of the suburb broken only by distant traffic and the occasional chirp of a night bird. When she sensed his presence, she turned to him, her expression soft. Your moon is lovely. We have 2 moons on my planet, but they are smaller, less luminous. This one, it casts such a gentle glow. Ethan sank onto the step beside her. I guess I've always taken it for granted. We see it so often, we forget how beautiful it can be. She shifted, so her shoulder brushed against his. Will you miss me when I go, Ethan Carter? The directness of her question squeezed his chest. Yes, he replied honestly. I'm trying not to think about it, but yeah, I'll miss you. A lot. She swallowed, eyes glimmering with an emotion he recognized as sorrow. I have tried to remain detached, reminding myself that this is research. Yet my heart is no longer bound by mere data. He hesitated, adrenaline thrumming through him. Slowly, almost tentatively, he reached for her hand. She accepted his touch, fingers intertwining. Lyra, he whispered, I think I'm falling in love with you. Her breath caught, and in her eyes he saw a swirl of surprise, tenderness, and a deep longing. Ethan, my feelings for you have become more than fondness. Perhaps this is what your kind calls love. It is new, overwhelming, and I do not fully know how to process it. But it is there. A tear threatened at the corner of his eye. He leaned forward, resting his forehead lightly against hers. So what do we do? She shivered, closing her eyes. I must fix the ship, contact my people, and depart. There is no easy alternative. But perhaps one day I can return. Or, if our worlds establish formal communication, we could. Her words died as Ethan tilted her chin up, pressing his lips gently to hers. The kiss was soft, hesitant at first, an exploration of boundaries. But when she responded, the gentle pressure of her mouth reaffirming the moment, time itself seemed to slow. The night air crackled with the energy of 2 souls bridging an impossible gulf. When they finally broke apart, breath shallow, Lyra's face shone with wonder. This is the human kiss. I have seen it, studied it. But to experience it is entirely different. Ethan laughed softly, tears wet on his cheeks. Yeah, sometimes words aren't enough, you know. She nodded, a solemn glint in her dark eyes. Yes, words fail. But the heart knows. They remained in that embrace for what felt like hours, neither wishing to break the fragile spell. In that silent communion, they tasted the bitter truth, that fate might separate them soon, but no force in the universe could erase the love that had blossomed between them under the Seattle skies. With the growing bond came a renewed urgency. They worked tirelessly on the ship, often late into the night, cross-referencing alien schematics with Earth hardware. Every so often, an unexpected piece would break, and they'd scramble to find a workaround. Despite the stress, their shared moments of tenderness multiplied. Small touches, fleeting glances, and whispered confessions in the dark. But fate, as it often does, threw another wrench into the works. One evening, while Ethan and Lyra were hunched over the open panel of the engine, a flicker of light pulsed on the ship's console. Lyra straightened, face pale. "My partner," she breathed. "They are transmitting a location check. Their craft must be operational." Ethan stared at the blinking pattern. "What do we do?" She pressed a sequence on her wrist device. "I must respond with minimal energy usage. If they detect that I remain grounded, they will assume I need assistance. That could mean a retrieval team, more attention, more risk of detection." Ethan nodded. "We can't have multiple ships descending on my backyard. People would notice." "Precisely," she said, tapping hurriedly. "I've sent a brief acknowledgement. But we must finish these repairs soon, or my partner will come." Heart pounding, Ethan refocused on installing the last of the newly fabricated couplings. Lyra handed him a delicate coil, carefully splicing it into place. For hours, they toiled under flickering flashlight beams, ignoring the stiff ache in their backs. At last, close to midnight, Lyra let out a triumphant sigh. "It's done," she said, the console emitting a steady hum. "The power matrix is stable." Ethan slumped against the hull, relief washing over him. "So you can fly out soon?" She hesitated, stroking the console with fondness. "Yes. A few more tests, calibrations, and it should be space-worthy." A heavy silence descended, so palpable that it wrapped itself around them like a suffocating blanket. For a moment, neither spoke, each grappling with the knowledge that Lyra's departure was now imminent. Ethan finally broke the stillness. "Then, we have very little time left, don't we?" Her face softened. "Yes, dear Ethan. I am afraid so." He forced a weak smile, stepping closer to her. "Let's make the most of what's left." She nodded, and they embraced in the cool night air, each clinging to the other in a desperate bid to slow the inevitable passage of time. The following morning, Lyra tested the ship's engines, setting them to hover mode for a brief moment under the tarp. It hummed to life, lifting a few inches from the ground, then settled back in a soft landing. Though the craft was still somewhat battered, it appeared capable of interstellar travel. Ethan watched from a safe distance, arms folded, heart pounding. Lyra stepped out of the craft, the tarp swaying with the displacement of air. She approached him, a mixture of triumph and sorrow etched on her face. "All systems are operational. I can depart within the next day or so." He tried to keep his voice steady. "I'm happy for you. Really, you'll be safe." She lowered her gaze. "And you? Will you be all right?" He gazed at her, uncertain how to respond. "I'll survive. Doesn't mean I won't miss you every single day, though." She nodded, placing a hand gently on his cheek. "I wish I could promise otherwise. But my obligations." Her voice faltered, and tears shimmered in her dark eyes. Ethan pulled her into a tight hug, neither caring if the neighbors might see. Everything else faded away, overshadowed by the crushing reality of their parting. He could feel her trembling against him. She was alien in form, but her grief and love were profoundly human, bridging any cosmic divide. As if orchestrated by the cruel irony of fate, the final day brought an unexpected interruption. Maggie Branson, the reporter, returned, this time with a photographer in tow. They parked on the street in front of Ethan's house, stepping out with determined expressions. Ethan spotted them through the window and cursed under his breath. He hastily guided Lyra into the living room. "It's that reporter again. She's not alone." Lyra's eyes widened. "What shall we do?" He glanced around, brain racing. If she took photos and found proof of the alien craft, or even of Lyra's green skin, the secret would be out. The ramifications could be disastrous, not just for Lyra, but possibly for Earth as a whole. "We'll have to stall them somehow. You hide in the bedroom. I'll try to get rid of them quickly." Lyra nodded, dashing down the hallway. Ethan steeled himself, then opened the door, feigning a casual air. Hi, Maggie, right? Can I help you?" She offered a pointed smile. "Hello, Ethan. I'm following up on the stories about strange sightings. Mind if we take a quick look around? Some folks claim there's a tarp in your backyard covering something." Ethan forced a laugh. "That's a private yard, Maggie. You can't just barge in." She gave a sympathetic shrug. You can let us in, or I can write an article about you acting suspicious. People love conspiracies. If there's nothing to hide, letting me see the yard should clear things up, right? He swallowed hard. Look, there's nothing interesting back there. Just some personal junk. Please respect my privacy. She motioned to the photographer, who raised a camera. At least let us snap a few pictures from the fence. Fine, Ethan said, heart hammering. Go ahead, but I'm telling you, it's just a project. He followed them around the side of the house, his mind racing. The tarp was still covering the ship, but if they looked closely, they might spot the metallic edges or the landing gear. He prayed the camera wouldn't catch enough detail to blow the lid off everything. At the fence, Maggie stood on tiptoes, camera lens extended. The tarp was old and tattered, revealing a sliver of the craft's underside. She squinted, clearly intrigued. What is that metal shining? Doesn't look like normal junk. Ethan licked his lips. It's a custom sculpture project. I do metalworking as a hobby. The tarp's protecting it from the rain. Sculpture, huh? Maggie said, suspicion lacing her tone. Mind if I take a closer look? He shifted, blocking her path. I'd rather you didn't. It's not finished, and I'm kind of self-conscious about it. She laughed, stepping to the side. Relax, Ethan. I won't judge your artwork. But at that moment, a sudden gust of wind ripped through the yard, pulling the tarp up and revealing a glimpse of the spacecraft's sleek hull. The photographer snapped a rapid series of pictures, eyes going wide. Maggie, you seeing this? Her jaw dropped. That's no sculpture. What in the world? Ethan's heart seized. Okay, enough. Time to go. She tried to slip past him, camera phone raised. Wait, this could be huge. Are you building some kind of advanced drone? Panicking, Ethan grabbed the tarp, yanking it back into place. Please, just leave. Before Maggie could argue, the craft behind the tarp began to emit a low hum, lights flickering along its side. Lyra must have been inside, initiating some system to avoid detection or scramble the electronics. The reporter's phone suddenly died, the camera lens retracting as the battery shorted out. What the? Maggie muttered, slapping the side of the phone. The photographer cursed, flipping switches on his camera to no avail. Sorry, folks, but you need to leave my property, Ethan said, voice shaking with suppressed urgency. I'll call the cops if I have to. Maggie, disoriented by the sudden malfunction of her devices, stumbled back. This isn't over, Ethan. People will want to know what's going on here. Goodbye, he said, forcing them out of the gate. They retreated to their car, glaring at him. The engine sputtered to life, and they drove off, presumably to plan a more thorough investigation. Ethan leaned against the fence, pulse pounding so hard it made him dizzy. The ruse was up. It was only a matter of time before they returned, perhaps with the authorities in tow. He dashed back inside, finding Lyra in the living room, her wrist device still glowing from the energy discharge. They saw the ship, he gasped. I couldn't stop them. They got photos, but I think you shorted their devices. She lowered her wrist device. Yes, a localized electromagnetic pulse. It may have destroyed any evidence they captured, but they might return with reinforcements. Ethan nodded grimly. We don't have much time. Lyra placed a trembling hand on his shoulder. Then I must leave tonight. The craft can fly. I need only enough open space to ascend safely. His heart clenched. Well, we'll have to do it somewhere else. They'll expect you to take off from here. She brushed a tear from his cheek. We must hurry. Under the cover of darkness, Ethan and Lyra pushed the craft manually down the narrow alley behind his house, praying no one would spot the odd silhouette. The plan was to reach a nearby empty field at the edge of town, a secluded place where the ship could ascend unnoticed. Every rustle in the shadows made Ethan's heart pound, certain they would be caught at any moment. At last, they arrived at the deserted field, grass swaying in the night breeze. Lyra made final checks, ensuring the engines were ready and the hull intact. Ethan stood off to the side, heart heavy, arms folded as though to brace himself against the heartbreak of losing her. She finished her assessment, then approached him, eyes shining with tears. This is it. My partner awaits. My mission calls. He swallowed hard. I know. She looked around, the Seattle skyline visible in the distance. Despite everything, I shall forever cherish the weeks we have shared. Your warmth, your humor, your ability to make me feel at home in a foreign world. He forced a shaky smile. I could say the same about you. You turned my boring life upside down in the best way. She raised a trembling hand, fingertips brushing his lips. Then, in a single graceful motion, she leaned in and kissed him, pouring into that moment every ounce of affection she had kept in check. Ethan responded fiercely, tears mingling, his arms circling her waist to hold her close for as long as fate would allow. When they finally broke apart, the world seemed quieter, as if paying respect to their goodbye. Lyra touched the device on her wrist, and the craft's door slid open with a hiss. A soft glow spilled across the grass, illuminating their final embrace. "Farewell, Ethan Carter," she whispered. "I promise if there is a way, I shall find a path back to you." He steadied his voice, though it cracked. "I'll wait, Lyra, however long it takes." She took a step back, tears rolling silently down her green-tinted cheeks. Then she turned, climbed inside the vessel, and sealed the hatch behind her. The engines whirred, a gentle pulse of light radiating along the hull. The craft began to lift, stirring a swirling ring of dust and grass clippings around its base. Ethan shielded his eyes, tears streaming, as the ship ascended. A low hum reverberated in his bones, and in a sudden burst of speed, the craft vanished skyward, leaving behind only a faint shimmer in the starlit heavens. The field fell silent. She was gone. For several weeks after Lyra's departure, Ethan wandered through life in a daze. The house felt empty without her presence. No curious questions at odd hours, no gentle laughter at human absurdities. The tarp he'd used to cover the ship lay discarded in the garage, a silent reminder of their extraordinary time together. He returned to work, half-heartedly tackling software projects, his mind frequently drifting to memories of Lyra. He often replayed their final moments, the promises she had made. Sometimes he wondered if it had all been an impossible dream. Only the scorched patch of lawn in his backyard convinced him otherwise. Months rolled by. The reporter, Maggie, eventually published a small, half-baked article speculating about strange events, but the story never gained traction. No solid evidence surfaced to back her claims, thanks to Lyra's electromagnetic intervention. Life, for the rest of Seattle, returned to normal, unaware of the cosmic wonder that had briefly touched it. Yet Ethan never lost hope. Late at night, he would stand on his porch, eyes lifted to the stars. He imagined Lyra somewhere out there, her ship traversing the cosmic oceans. Did she think of him as he thought of her? Then, on a drizzly spring morning nearly a year after her departure, he found something peculiar in his mailbox, a small metallic disc the size of a coin, etched with odd symbols. It glowed faintly when he held it, resonating with a gentle warmth. Along with it was a single sheet of paper bearing unfamiliar writing, which, after a moment, shifted into English letters before his very eyes. The note read, "Ethan, I have not forgotten. Our worlds may yet unite. Lyra." Tears welled in his eyes, a grin splitting his face. She was alive. She had found some way to send him this token, bridging light years in a single gesture. The promise of her return shone as bright as any star. And so it was that Ethan Carter, once a quiet software developer in Seattle, clung to a love that defied the boundaries of space and time. Though years might pass without further word, though each day might dawn with monotony, he carried in his heart the knowledge that the universe was far wider and more wondrous than most humans ever dreamed. More importantly, he knew that love, fueled by curiosity and kindness, could cross the gulf between worlds. Someday, perhaps, Lyra would once again grace his doorstep, her green skin radiant under the Seattle clouds, her laughter dancing in the warm glow of his living room lamp. And in that hopeful vision, Ethan found a solace that lit his life like a star, guiding him forward with the promise of a future reunion, a happy ending yet to be written, but always in sight, shimmering like the cosmic horizon at dawn.